So I think it was more of a passion that turned into a profession. Myself and Abhishek, who's my co-founder, both of us were in fact, we are very passionate for travel and outdoor activities. So we've been, I was working with SAP and Abhishek was working with Cisco, when on all the weekends we were traveling around, doing a lot of activities. And we've realized that there is a clear-cut pain point here, and that is that, it's very difficult to discover activities, and then it's all the more difficult to find out an activity operator, to trust the operator that how he will do the activity. There are no reviews about him. There's no platform about it. His website is very shabby, and I can't pay him cash. I mean, I really need to work with an operator, a platform which enables me some amount of trust when I go for an activity. So there was a clear-cut gap in discovery and bookability. Then when we traveled more, we also realized that these operators have a lot of inventory which is unfilled. So they're not running to the max of their capacity. They're not operating to the quality standards that they can operate to. So there was a clear-cut pain point on the operator side where they could do a lot more business, but they were not getting a platform, and they had the sense to upgrade, but there wasn't enough happening around them to enable them to upgrade the quality. So we spotted this, and out of the passion of adventure, we said, okay, let's give it a shot. We didn't leave our jobs, to be honest. We come from middle-class family backgrounds. Our parents are quite educated and into the professional services in India, but they're very risk-averse. So they've not been into businesses. We've not seen a business scenario. These are not business families where we have money to just put it into the system. And we said, okay, let's just start a blog. Let's see if we can do something about it. And we started it like that. So it was part-time. Mornings were work at SAP and Cisco, and evenings we were just, working on the blog, getting some data online and having people to come to the website, doing some digital marketing to see, are we getting some kind of results? And that started in 2009, and by 2010 I got into ISP. I went to study there because it was very clear that this could enable us a lot more capability to build a business of our own. And I think that year was great because Monday to Thursdays, the 4 days I was studying at ISB, Thursday evening I used to take a train, fly down to Bangalore, Friday, Saturday, Sunday. That was the weekend work. That is the only working weekend for me those days. So 3 days were very important for me, taking out my work. And Sunday again, take a train back to Hyderabad. So whatever I was learning there in the first 4 days of the week was what, I was getting a platform to actually implement here and see in the making of a business. So it was pure passion that enabled us to take this journey ahead. In the beginning when we started, there wasn't too much competition in India on the online activity or adventure space. So there weren't companies which were like big aggregators of adventure or activities. There were some large players, the OTAs, the Make My Trip, the Yatra, the Clear Trip, the Go IPO. So all these companies were there and they had significant presence. In fact, they captured the entire flight market, the hotel market and the package tour market. So all the three markets were very, very clearly captured. But there was clear space lying out there in the activity market for India. So at that point of time, we said that instead of deviating and diversifying to tours or anything else, let's just stick to the core of activities. Let's just grow here because there's less competition here and there's a clear gap here. There's a clear pain point here. And we had very little money. So what we started doing was, we couldn't compete with any of the bigger brands in terms of spending or doing advertisements or anything. We picked up digital marketing as a domain. Now Abhishek is an expert at it, he understands that, and he kept upgrading his skill set and knowledge by implementing, learning, reading and doing it all over, experimenting. We were very good at that. So we were able to build a very good team for digital marketing and we were able to drive a lot of traffic through search engine optimization, social media, blogging, getting informative content on the website for users. That strategy actually enabled us to grow the company very well in spite of a lot of players around, big players around with much more money and we having very less money. So I think that strategy enabled us to do a lot more things. When we started, it was more of an adventure company. Back in 2009-10, when the idea came to our mind, it was more of an adventure. And we decided to make an adventure portal. Very quickly we realized that there are very few people in India who actually do adventure. The segment is very, very small. it becomes like very limited age groups plus very limited income groups, because adventure is an expensive affair after all. So not everybody can do it, and then there's a risk taking capability involved. And as Indians, the risk factor, the risk appetite is quite low. So in totality, we realized that we do not have a large enough market. And that's when we quickly decided and said, let's diversify. Adventure is one activity, and we will diversify from only adventure to activities. And the moment we say activities, it becomes large. Now when I go to Rajasthan and I stay in a hotel, I have the choice to take the fort tour, I have the choice to take a hot air balloon safari, I can pick up a day sightseeing tour or a 2-day sightseeing tour, or a Rajasthani traditional dinner at one of the places. So I'm immediately increasing my market size and my customer segment also, because from only an adventure seeking guy, now I'm looking at a segment which has families, which has people who are quite senior also, which has people who are young but don't have enough money. So if I were to talk about user personas, let me give an example here. So we have somebody who's just started working in an IT company in Bangalore, and he's 22 years in age, has enough income, can spend 2,000 rupees on a weekend for a trek and a camping, and is excited and young. So that's one persona. You have another persona who's 35 years in age, he has good income, and he likes spending money also. So he has a family to take care, and so he would want a place where he can go with his family. So that's a typical day out happening in one of the nice resorts in the city or outside the city. Let's take a third example where this guy is a 50-year-old guy, has enough money, and when he goes out for a trip to Australia, he wants to do golfing, he wants to do some cruises. So those are the other activities that he would come and pick up from on the platform. So I think it's a very important point when we start a venture that we have to quickly understand the market that we are aiming in and what are the kind of customers that are there and how to segment it. So we took time to do that because we started very raw, to be honest. We didn't have a background as such. But with time, in the first 2 years, we quickly evolved, understood the market, segmented well, and took it ahead. Adventure seems to be very exciting, and that's the reason we said, okay, let's build the best adventure company of India. Let's have all the adventures of India. We built an adventure map which showed us that you have so many adventurous things in India, with the beach there and the mountain there and the desert there. I mean, it's a beautiful landscape. Which other country will have that much adventure? But that's one side. That's the supply side, right? There is enough supply, but where is the demand? That's very important. So Indians by nature are a little risk averse and not very keen on the adventure part. And once we started building the website and started building the pages, we started realizing that people are coming on the website, they are reading and consuming content, but it's not translating into a transaction. So they do send us an inquiry that they're interested, but when you start talking to them, you realize that they're just interested to know about it. I mean, planning and actually going and doing that trek is a far away thought still. And it will involve a lot of discussions and a lot of things happening in his mind and his friends' minds and his family's minds and all those things. So it's not something that you just come on the platform and you take it. It's not a vacation kind of a thing for Indians still. So we very quickly realized that there is enough traffic that we've been able to drive on these pages. But this traffic is not monetizing into transactions. What Indians are actually looking at is simple activities. So when they go to Coorg, they really want to go for a spice plantation walk, which is an adventure for them, right? Because they're climbing a spice hill, right? They're fine doing a day trek. So they go in the morning and they come back in the evening and they trek for 3-4 hours, give them nice food somewhere on the mountain top, show them a sunset, perfect. A jeep ride, that's also an adventure. So we realized that the definition for the market of adventure is different from what is adventure. And which is when we quickly realized that let's diversify, let's give what the market wants, let's pivot the model, let's not hook to the fact that we started with an aspiration to build the best adventure company in India. So honestly speaking, I think I didn't study anything about entrepreneurship. I didn't read about what MVPs are and all, which is where we did blunders. And I would really urge people listening here not to do these blunders. So we started with building an adventure portal for India. We didn't say that we'll get adventure operators only for Himalayas. We said no, we will launch when we have the entire India adventure on our platform. I think which was a very foolish decision. I mean, there is no point of building a great product without understanding the market response. So we did that mistake and we realized from that mistake, and the good thing is that we learned fast and we didn't repeat the mistake. So when we diversified it into activities, that time we decided that we will launch activities for one city. And Bangalore being our home ground, because we were always based out of here, we had a huge traffic from the Bangalore and we had huge people experiencing things here. So there was good word of mouth that spread here. So we decided to launch our MVP into Bangalore. And we built 100 to 200 activities for Bangalore rather than building like a huge portfolio. We launched them and we started taking the response of the customer. When customers used to come on the website, what is enabling them to buy that? Or why are they not buying it? What is the information missing on that piece of data point? So we realized with the heat maps that pictures are the most important decision-making points for them. I mean, you will see people spending maximum amount of time on the area where there are pictures on the page. So we started improving the pictures. We decided that reviews are a very important component in taking this decision. So we started encouraging our travelers to actually write reviews on the platform. So we took these learnings and we tried improving the pages on the website. Then the other critical learning that we realized was that, as a marketplace, on one side you have consumers and on the other side we have suppliers. Even the operators and suppliers are our consumers because they are consuming the platform. So they have trekking departures or they have activity departures on the weekend, but because they don't get any seats till Wednesday, they cancel the departure. And there is some 2-3 people who book it on a Thursday and then the departure is cancelled, so they are never able to come out of this cycle. The problem is people who want to travel on a weekend actually become active on a Thursday. They start coming on the website on Thursday and then they repeatedly visit this website on the Friday and they book it on a Friday night. This is a very common trend that we've observed. And that was a time when we sat with the operators and we said that, to make a business, trust us, we will give you business. Just do not cancel your departure on a Wednesday evening because you've not got tickets. Let's just wait till a Friday and we'll cover up the cost. But let's just execute it once. And that was actually a big turning point. Because of the user behavior and data, that the response that we got from our users, we worked with them and they were able to actually wait till a Friday, Saturday. They were able to execute the departures. So in nutshell, what happened was the customer was getting what he wanted, which otherwise he used to book a ticket and the operator used to call and say, sorry, this is cancelled, which was a very bad experience for the customer. And on the other side, the operator who was not able to make business actually started making business. So today there are operators whom we've given, who started with us at a 50,000 a month, and today they are at 10 lakhs a month with us. That's the amount of business we have given to them and in the last 2 years. In fact, a lot of them. So when we launched, this is the exact reason why we did an MVP. So by launching very specific and limited items in a city, we were working with those operators and consumers to actually figure out the model that what will be a delightful experience for a customer. So there were times when customers used to come back to us with repeated issues, transport pickups not happening on time, food not being good on the camping location, concerns related to the camping areas, washrooms. So very clearly we undertook all those issues, and what we clearly worked on was working with the operators. We have a very strong curation process where before we onboard an operator, we do some checks. And even when we get a first feedback from the customer, we start talking to the operator. So we had repeated coaching sessions with the operator where we encouraged them to do better things. We gave them a confidence that we will give you enough business so that you can maintain this quality. We do understand that if they don't get enough business, their qualities go down. So we gave them commitments of business which enabled them to increase their quality, and in the nutshell, the customer having a better experience and the operator also getting more business. So we have an NPS which we called as a Net Promoter Score. So after the trip, a customer gets a form which he usually fills up, where again the questions are very specific, that did the operator pick you on time, was the operator professional, were the guides good, was the activity enjoyable, and a couple of other questions which enable us, and they have to rate their experience on the platform as well as the experience with the operator. Very clear-cut questions which enable us to rate these operators on the platform. And in fact, these ratings actually impact the business. So an operator which has a higher rating on the platform happens to get more visibility to the end users and ends up getting more business. Our core marketing strategy has been digital, which is online, and as founders, we have to play on our strengths. So Abhishek's core strength is digital marketing. He understands that entire internet space very well. He knows what he needs to do to get the SEO right, to get the social media right, to get the content right. So we'd built a very strong digital marketing team in-house. And till date, we don't do any AdWords, we don't do any Facebook ads or anything. We don't buy traffic, and we have 1.5 million traffic on the website every month. So it was a very step-by-step approach of building a team, coaching a team right, upgrading your own strengths, because the digital space is new, it keeps changing. Every now and then you will see new strategies coming into the market, you will see Google changing its algorithm, a new update is sent out in the market. So it's a very step-by-step process where, returns also take time, because this is not something where you're putting in money, throwing an ad and getting a customer. It takes a certain amount of time, so it needs some patience also. But it has given us good results. So we launched with the MVP with Bangalore, took our learnings, and when we realized that the model makes sense, we have understood the customer, we are able to set the expectations right for the customer, and we are able to upgrade the quality of the operator, was when we decided to scale it up. And this scaling was a very conscious scaling of not like scaling the entire length and breadth of the country, but again going zone wise. So after fixing the Bangalore piece, we immediately scaled to Mumbai, Delhi, the entire northern piece, which is the Himalayas and Ladakh, and then covering the entire south, Kerala, Rajasthan, and all the areas. So, and now when we believe that India is well captured and we are able to generate enough traffic and enough transactions for India, we've decided to expand into Asia. So I think expansion can be faster than this also, slower than this also. I think it's a pace that you decide for yourself that what is working right for you. There's no defined definition that you need to give this much months or this much time. But I think when you get a hang of things is when you decide to expand. The right approach here would be stick to your MVP. First, get it right. Once you believe that you can now scale and create a difference and replicate this, is when you need to start scale. So I think that's a tough question, because being an entrepreneur, there is responsibility towards multiple things. On one side, you have a responsibility towards the business, making it profitable. There is responsibility towards the investors who've put in money. There's responsibility towards your customers. And then there's responsibility towards your employees. So it's not one thing, but multiple things. And you got to be a tough taskmaster to get things done. If it's a bootstrapped organization or a smaller funded organization, it's a different game altogether when there is a large amount of investment in the company, or when there is too much money around. It's easier to then let go some things, but when things are bootstrapped, it's very important to actually get things done at all points of time, and that makes you the bad cop in most of the times. So we have to be prepared that as leaders, it's not about a personal reputation. It's not about relating everything to a personal string, but it's more about getting things done, building an organization, and in the journey, build the people also, to be honest. It's people who build your organization. It's a team which will take the entire result ahead. So in the journey, you got to be working with your people, with your team, to actually take it ahead. We've done mistakes. I think nobody is a born leader. You have to develop this quality by learning, experimenting, doing things right, wrong, taking advice, consulting, and moving on. So I think we've also done our fair share of mistakes in the style, but overall evolved and brought it to a level where I think it makes sense for running the organization. Simple things that I can tell you is, yes, in the beginning, you tend to evaluate people based on your own strengths. If I can do this in an hour, maybe the other person can do it in 2 hours. But that's not the right way of doing it. So it's very important to understand the strength of the other person, allocate him work basis that strength, and then normalize your expectation. Because most of the times it's an expectation and fulfillment gap that disappoints people or that disrupts a relationship. So more than So what the other person does is not in my hand. What is in my hand is to manage my bar of expectation and then encourage the other person to do something better. So it has to be a very fine balance between the two things, and that's what you learn as you get into the journey more and more on. But yes, be prepared to be the bad cop. You just can't be the good cop always. And there's just one word answer to it. I'm looking for attitude. At Thrillophilia, we've never looked for skills. Skills are secondary. Skills is something that we can teach. We can spend time with the person. Till date, I spend more than 50% of my time in hiring and coaching. It's people who will take the company ahead. It is very important to onboard the right set of people. And I'll be honest, it is attitude that makes all the difference. If a person has an attitude to run, you can make him run. If he doesn't have an attitude to run, you just cannot make him run no matter how skilled he is. He just doesn't want to run. And startups are a fast-paced place to work. It is, you got to be running. There is no choice that you have in a startup. It's a startup. That's why it's a startup. So if somebody comes in with an expectation of it being a very normal, slow-moving work culture, that's a misfit. Which is why attitude plays a key role here. Again, it might sound controversial, but I very strongly say that let go of people fast. Do not hang on to people who don't fit the system. It's very important to identify whether a person fits or not fits. Ideally, that should happen before you onboard a person, but all of us end up making mistakes. There are times people also fake in interviews. Sometimes you're not able to take the right decision when you're interviewing someone. But whenever you feel that the decision is clear that the person is not fitting in, sit down, have an open conversation with the person, see if he's actually having the mental wavelength, it's matching with what you have, is it aligning with the goals. If it seems to be happening, give him a chance again. Otherwise, just let it go. Let it go fast, because a bad fish can spoil the pond. So you feel that, it's difficult to, so at times it is actually difficult to take those tough calls of asking people to leave. But that is beneficial for the organization. So we have to look at the larger picture. While a lot of the people in the process will believe that, what decision was taken, it was a wrong decision, it shouldn't have been taken, right? But in the shoes that you are in, you need to be looking at the larger picture. And if you look at the larger picture, you would realize what is good and what is not good. It is a tough call. It's actually very tough, but that is what you have to be. You have to be tough when you're running an enterprise, especially if it's a bootstrapped one. So misfits can actually be very damaging for an organization. We've had times when we onboard people with great excitement, great hopes, and we realize that they're not fitting in. And when I say they're not fitting in, means there are some core DNAs of the organization that you would want everybody to somewhere be in sync with it. And when the person is not in that sync, so let it be the pace of the organization, let it be the fact that we are people who commit and who honor our own commitments, right? When those things don't match up, what ends up happening is that it's not that this one person or these two people or these three people or four people in the team are not doing it, it gets spread. So culture is something that gets spread. If I'm talking positive, 5 people around me will talk positive. If I'm talking negative, 5 people around me will talk negative. So it is very easy to make a positive thing negative. So if there are 2 or 3 or few members in the team which are not fitting in and have become negative about your organization and are talking negative, it will very quickly spread around. Absolutely quickly. And we've had those situations where we've had the entire team think negative. And when they're thinking negative, their performance is going down. So it's not that this person was not capable of doing well, but because of the negativity around, the person's himself performance is going down and it is impacting other people around. And everybody's performance is going down. Overall, the team's performance is going down. It is extremely important in such situations that before things go out of control, identify what is not fitting in the system, have an open dialogue with the person, see if it can be improvised, watch carefully, and then move on. So when it comes to funding, a lot of it is market driven. Back in 2011 when we started, it wasn't like a VC driven market, a lot of funds coming in India. The scenarios were not like that. We were bootstrapped then, and we were able to make money in the process. And we came to a stage when we realized that now we want to do a large play. And when you decide to do a large play, for us that was the time when we made the MVP, when we decided to do the MVP for Bangalore and expand into activities from a pure play adventure. We know that from adventure to activities is a very different story. I mean, with 200 adventure tours on one side, we're talking about 8,000 to 10,000 activities. That's the kind of growth we want to do on the supply side. We're talking of operators which are very small, which are not doing any business. We need to have capacity to give them more business. We need to bring more people on our website. We need to increase our reach. So there are times when you realize that, this entire thing needs a lot more money than you have in the bank. Right? So you make an entire business plan where you see that you need X amount of money, which is why you need to go out to the investors. So for us, when we moved from the B2B kind of a business to a B2C business, when we opened out to the consumers, was a time when we clearly realized that we need money. It can't be a bootstrapped venture anymore. And that was when we approached investors. What helped us raise money was the fact that we had good numbers by then already because of the B2B model. We were doing business, we were making money, we were cash flow positive. So we were actually able to raise investment quite easily and at a very good valuation. So my advice to you would be, don't raise money till the time you really need it, but be wise enough to find out when you will need it. And market will also be a very important factor. If you see that there is competition around you which is having deep pockets, there's no point of remaining bootstrapped then, because the competition will wipe you off very soon. So it's something that is your DNA, plus you need to observe the market and draw a balance and take wise decisions. For an entrepreneur, it's always hard to dilute stock. To be honest, it's a pure negotiation. So it's like this, that if my side is higher, I'm going to dilute less. If my side is lower, I'm going to dilute more. So the best time to raise money is when you're doing well. If you're doing well, you have all the negotiation capability. So you need to foresee. You need to see that 7 months down the line, 8 months down the line, I will be in need of money, or 10 months down the line, I will need money. So start now. If you start 3 months before, what you will end up doing is you will be in a situation where you are just running low on bank balance. You really need the money now. You don't have negotiation capability. So you end up diluting more. That's visible on your face. I mean, the confidence with which you approach an investor, the investor knows it's all over. So the best time to raise money is when you have money in the bank. Foresee, raise whatever you need. So I'm not saying that raise more than what you need, because whenever you raise more money, you end up diluting more stock. But pick up the right time so that you can negotiate on the terms and you can negotiate on the valuation. Honestly speaking, when I review a term sheet, for me, it's always terms are more important than the dilution. It's okay to dilute 2% more or 3% more. It is not okay to compromise on terms. We have to go through all the terms very, very carefully, in terms of what is the return that they would make, what happens when a merger happens, what happens when an acquisition happens. So there are a lot of terms that will come eventually in a term sheet, and it is very important to read them through and ensure that your voting rights or your rights to run an organization are not compromised in the process of raising money. I think there's nothing more important than that. It's your baby, you have to be running it the way you want to run it. So running a company with your spouse has its own merits and demerits. Let me talk about the merits first. So merits are quite simple. You know the other person very well, you know his strengths, you know his weaknesses. So the chemistry is already there, right? The chemistry is already there that helps you actually complement each other very well. The other thing, even when you're on a holiday or a vacation, you're thinking about something about your business there. Your spouse is also thinking about that. So, you're actually breathing Thrillophilia. So me and Abhishek, we breathe it all the time. It's like your baby. It's actually like your baby. It is with you. You just can't leave it on a vacation, right? You have to take it along. There is something happening on that vacation which tells you, oh, this is the learning that we can draw, and you just note it down somewhere. So I find that as a merit, to be honest, and it's a big merit for the investors that, this is not going out of their minds ever. So that's a good merit. I think in terms of demerit, I would say you need to be at a real good understanding level with your spouse to actually make it work. You need to be way away from those aspects of ego, male or female. You know, those cliches have to be away. It has to be a pure play, professional stuff when you're at work. You need to respect each other's strengths, each other's positions, each other's roles and responsibilities. It needs an altogether different level of understanding. If I'm fighting with him in office, doesn't actually mean that I go back and fight with him at home. So we need to respect those zones. And that's not something that can be taught. It actually depends upon the level of relationship. And for me and Abhishek, we've been friends for now 17 to 18 years. We've been married for only 5 years. So we were friends for at least 10 years before marriage. And I think that is what plays a role here. So we're friends first and then spouses. So that brings us to an equation which helps us make it work. So for anybody who wants to do a business with a spouse, it's very important to actually be at that understanding level and only then think about it. I think when we raised our first round of investment, we should have run a little faster. That was the first big money that we raised, because before that we were just bootstrapped. So we were very careful with spending the money. And we didn't do that when we raised the second round, so we learned. But that was something where we lost some time. And it's very important that by the time the money hits your account, your expenses should just begin. So what happened was, when the second time we got the money, we were already negative. There were enough payables that we had to do, which is the right thing, I would say. Because you are already prepared to spend the money. You're raising money because you have a plan to spend, right? So when we raised the investment the first time, it took us a little while to actually spend it, because we have been in a zone of being bootstrapped and being very careful with money and not overspending. But I think the equation changes completely and you have to adapt to it fast. So if you ask me, that was one mistake which is a critical one. We should have rather onboarded some very senior members very quickly into the team. And it's those senior members which would actually become your core team members and work with you, which we did at a later point of time. But the time loss is an opportunity lost, and we need to value that. So I have a different philosophy. I truly think that, men and women are equal, right? So they need equal opportunity. So when we are talking of equality everywhere, we just can't say that, there are less women entrepreneurs, so let's promote them more, let's give them a bigger platform and all that. I think there is enough happening in the ecosystem. All of us are equally educated. We have enough opportunities to things. We need to give opportunity to people who don't have them. So if we're talking about rural Indian women, I would say yes, we can do something to encourage them, make them more aware of their rights, make them more aware of the choices they have to make. But otherwise, being a woman entrepreneur, I think, is an advantage and not a disadvantage, purely because you get the eyeballs, you get the limelight. So if Thrillophilia has become something today, I am speaking in most of the interviews, right? Why? Because I'm a female, right? So it's not that Abhishek has done anything less than me, right? But that's what it is. So being a woman entrepreneur is an advantage, it's not a disadvantage, and that's all I'll say.